Welcome to Inside Iowa Politics. I am Gray Television's Iowa Political Director, Dave Price. This week, we're going to talk about a tough issue, and that's cancer. Also talk about some legislation that has moved through the Iowa Senate that deals with pesticides. We want to start with what we hope is a positive news update, and that is from Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds. It involves her husband, Iowa's first dude, Kevin. Kevin has been battling lung cancer and been undergoing treatment. Now, Kevin is not a smoker, and as far as we know, still has not been able to figure out how he got lung cancer, but the governor says that he is doing well. Let's talk about Iowa's cancer rate. This rate has been going up faster than most any other state in the country, and officials are trying to figure out why. Now, there is also some legislation that's moved through the Iowa Senate. Republicans passed this, Democrats oppose this. You did have a few Republicans who did not go along with this, but it has to do primarily with Bayer. Bayer is one of the largest makers of pesticides, and specifically we're talking about Roundup. Roundup contains glyphosate, and that's the chemical, the active ingredient in it that is so good at killing weeds on farms, lawns, and gardens. But Bayer has been paying out billions of dollars in settlements to people who say they got cancer because of Roundup. Now, the research on this is mixed. You can find some international studies that show that there could be a link here. You don't find those studies in the United States. Nonetheless, the Iowa Capitol Dispatch says that Bayer has taken out glyphosate, that chemical, in its lawn and garden use. So still using it on the commercial ag side of this. Now, this bill that went through the Iowa Senate would give Bayer some additional protection from future lawsuits from Iowans who get sick and try to sue and say that it's Bayer's product here that has made them sick. This legislation would say that, for the most part, people cannot sue if Bayer has been putting the proper warnings on its product that federal regulators require at the time. Now, this debate on this bill was passionate.
You know what? When you can sue a company because they can't do a darn thing to protect themselves, it's a lot easier than proving causation.
There's this old saying, you can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig. So you can try to dress this up whatever way you want. But the bottom line is this. This bill is stripping away the legal protections for Iowa farmers.
Iowa Democratic State Senator Janice Weiner joined her colleagues in opposing this legislation. She wants the legislature and the medical community, researchers, to focus more on why so many Iowans are getting sick. Why are so many Iowans getting cancer? Does it have anything to do with these chemicals used in rural Iowa on farms, or is it something else?
There are several things that concern me, but basically this is a bill that was brought by Bayer. So my antennae go up when a large corporation that produces pesticides brings a bill. And what we've seen several bills go through this chamber over the past 2 sessions that limit liability. This is one of them. Individuals in Iowa, individual farmers and their families should not be denied their day in court. And that's what concerns me most about that bill. It is a bill that protects Bayer. Bayer Crop Sciences is going to be just fine regardless of what the Iowa legislature does, but it doesn't protect Iowans. It doesn't protect Iowa farmers who may at some point develop cancer or Parkinson's or some other issue and feel they have enough evidence that they want to sue. It keeps them from having, in my view, it keeps them from having their day in court, and that's not okay.
Now, you have some Republican colleagues who disagree and say nothing in this will preclude a person from suing if they indeed get sick later?
Well, I respectfully disagree with them. It has essentially the language it has, and I reread the bill. It has language that essentially says if it's not in the label, you can't sue. That's not the exact language. I'm not looking up for the quote, but so if there's no health information in the label, and I understand like the label's prescribed by EPA, but that means you're precluded. And the other thing that really worries me about this is that the language is broad enough that it wouldn't necessarily just apply to Bayer. It could apply to any of the large pesticide companies. And I just don't see that it's in our interest or as legislators to be somehow telling Iowans who maybe now are sick or who may get sick in the future that guess what? This legislature decided you shouldn't have a right to go in front of a court where essentially that levels the playing field for David and Goliath. So David is the small person, individual who's suing, and Goliath is the large company. Everybody gets their attorney, everybody gets to do discovery, everybody gets to talk, to have witnesses and so forth. And then a jury of their peers decides. That's the way it's supposed to be under our Constitution. And we keep taking that away from people.
As you look at these statistics about how our rate of residents getting diagnosed with cancer is increasing at a higher rate than our population is, and we are now something like the second highest state.
Yes.
Without obvious reasons about what's causing this, we know that we have too many people who are drinking too much.
Right.
So perhaps that's a factor here. But as you are looking at your legislative calendar for the next couple of weeks, what do you want to see you all do as a collective body about inquiring, looking into what is going on with these rising rates?
Well, I'd love to see us actually do something about it and give the scientists and doctors in our state some tools to start dealing with it. I don't want. It feels like what we're doing is taking away people's ability to fight cancer instead of giving them the tools to do it. We didn't pass. It got the bill that would have increased the ability for firefighters to get compensation for cancers that they arguably get from the job was stopped by the chair of the state government committee in the Senate. I don't get that at all. And then we passed this bill yesterday on the pesticides. What I'd like to see is, I know that Dr. Austin Baith in the House introduced a suite of bills aimed at combating our rising cancer rates. I introduced a bill early in this session, which was Senate File 2250, which is simply the result of a number of conversations I had last summer with some doctors and scientists at the University of Iowa who were looking to talk to a variety of legislators about the kinds of research they really would like to do, not just at the University of Iowa, but with scientists all over this state to really get to the bottom of some of this. So the bill that I introduced basically would fund 4 different baskets of research, and it would be handled through HHS. It would be pediatric cancer research, cancer prevention research, clinical cancer research, and basic cancer research. And they would all, in my view, that would be a really good starting point. It's not an end point, but it would be a good starting point. It's literally the least we can do for Iowans.
Time now for the final 5. 1, let's see what the House now does with that pesticide bill and whether House Republicans will go along with what Senate Republicans have passed. Number 2, the budget, and specifically it's the differences in the budget. House Republicans want to spend about $82 million more than Senate Republicans. And if you'll recall, House Republicans already agreed to compromise when it came to spending on schools. They originally wanted to spend more than the Senate did. They came down and met Senate Republicans on this. We'll see what happens when it comes to the budget. Will House Republicans compromise again, or will it be the Senate this time? Number 3, speaking of compromise, let's see what happens with these reforms on the area education agencies. House Republicans say they need to fix something now, and specifically it's a chunk of $68 million. They say there's an oversight here, but essentially this comes down to a chunk of money that would go toward education and media services, and whether districts would keep spending that chunk of money on those specific things, or do they now have this broad oversight on this? Could they spend that money elsewhere? House Republicans want to tighten that up. We will see if Senate Republicans and the governor go along with this. Number 4, speaking of the governor, Iowa's governor allowed Iowa to become the 27th state to have a Religious Freedom Restoration Act. That in itself is not what really stands out here, because so many other states have already done this and there's some federal protection on this, but she signed it in private at a family leader event. You're seeing this happen more often the last couple of years, and not just in Iowa, but from Republican governors in other states where they sign these bills in private, where it just is not done the same way that it's been done in the past. For example, the media aren't there to cover this, and whether people even care about this. All right, question 5, and that's what will happen when it comes to this expanded postpartum coverage for women who are on Medicaid. It expands it from 60 days to 1 year, and most states already have something similar to this. In this compromise package, though, it reduces the women who would be eligible for this because it's based on income. So the remaining women can get this protection for longer, but there could be fewer women eligible for this. We will see what the impact of this will be in the months ahead. Thanks for joining us for Inside Iowa Politics.